Well, it's Tuesday, so that means it's time for another top 10 video. This time I'm bringing you something very special that is a not sponsored video. It is a top 10 monsters from my dad's monster manual. This is a book that James Introcaso put out on the DMs Guild with his dad, where he basically went through and looked at a bunch of very popular, iconic monsters from Dungeons & Dragons and got his dad's opinion on what he thinks it should be called and what he thinks the abilities of it should be. I think this is amazing. I always love the concept of where, like, people will show, here's what my mom named these 150 Pokemon, or my son did this, that, and the other thing. And when they get somebody else to look at it from a completely outside perspective and design things, and I think that that is awesome. So I'm going to be going over that. If you want to, just stay tuned. I love the concept of this. I love to see more of it. I even love to think about doing some of it myself. So what's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here. Before we dive into the actual top 10, let me just show you here. This is it, my dad's monster manual on the DMs Guild. I'll have a link in the description. It is an affiliate link, so I will benefit monetarily if you're kind enough to use my link. But that being said, you can get the PDF for $15, the soft cover printed version for $24. And honestly, if you're going to go soft cover, you might as well spend the extra $5 while it's on discount and get both for $29.95. As I said, James sent a copy of this to me for review purposes, but it doesn't influence my review anyway. I actually just glanced through it briefly, so we're going to actually see a lot of my first blush impressions as we go through. So basically what I did was I took my recently updated top 10 D&D 5e monsters, adjusted a couple for ones that were not in the book, and then basically I'm going to take that top 10 that I had originally put together and then update it using the My Dad's Monster Manual version. So let's dive in. Number 10. First of all, James, good on you for putting bookmarks on your DMs Guild product here. But anyway, it is the, I guess it's pronounced Poullian. I guess sort of like a poulet, joke on a chicken. And this is a reimagined Cockatrice. So it says it looks like a dragon, but it's a bird. Lucian J. Introcaso, that being James's dad. So this is actually a challenge rating 5 monster. It is a dragon. Armor class 15. Got some hit points here. The guy has a fly speed. It can mimic any sounds it has heard, including voices. And then it has multi-attack, one with its bites and its talon. It does have a bite attack, but the bite is a poison feature, and the poison makes it so you can't speak a lie, as if under the effects of the Zone of Truth spell. And it says they're sapient birds with a touch of metallic and dragon ancestry. Most of the time, they appear to have fluffy, chicken-like bodies that stand between 6 and 8 feet tall. When threatened or agitated, they take on a draconic appearance to intimidate foes, making their feathers look more like scales. See, this is awesome. This is what it's great. This is the best part of it. And honestly, in my mind, the information, the lore behind the creature is honestly, in a lot of cases, more interesting than the stat block. Just to see the reimagining that we have here, right? They're also super intelligent with a 15 intelligence, and they speak all languages. I missed that part, right? They travel alone. Most travel alone or in small familial groups. They tend to not stay in one place. They're also neutral, not evil in any way. They enjoy experiencing new cultures and learning new arts. They're level-headed and slow to anger. Many humanoids hire them as mediators and ambassadors. They're blessed with the ability to make them master negotiators. They can speak all languages, and their bite has the truth serum. And most are curious learners, but some become grifters, thieves, or thugs. These often become leaders of thieves' guilds or other criminal organizations. I think this is great. It's an amazing reimagining, especially because they're like they transform, like they're fluffy chickens that turn into dragon monsters when they are when they're angry or upset, or like almost like a Hulk-like transformation in a way. I think this is awesome. It's also a challenge rating 5 creature, which expands a lot of the interesting uses of lower level creatures. And your players won't know what this is unless you tell them that it's a reimagined Cockatrice. So you can kind of keep this in your back pocket and expand your own homebrew world using these. Number 9. The Scorpdillo. This is a reimagined rust monster here, and you can see once again we have a large increase in the challenge rating here. Still small size, but we're up to a challenge rating 7 now. It is now immune to poison. It has magical resistance, and it makes 3 attacks. 1 antenna, 1 bite, and 1 tail. The antenna causes creatures to make a saving throw or fall prone and collapse into fits of laughter, as though being tickled, I assume. They are unable to stand up until the start of their next turn. Their bite has a poison. While poisoned, their speed is halved. They can't use reactions, and on their turn, they get an action, bonus action, or bonus action, not both. And then they have a tail attack that does slashing damage. They are aberrations now. They're insectoids with armored bodies, bladed talons, powerful mandibles, and feathered antennae. They serve without question. They're unquestioningly loyal, apparently. Oh, and it says, oh yes, these are potentlings, lowly servants. I forget what potentlings are. I'll have to look that up. We'll talk about it in a second here. They are excellent guardians, cleaners, cooks, gardeners, and builders who can perform any menial task a potentling asks. They gave Scorpdillos a venomous bite, which slows other creatures' movements. And they have, again, the tickling antenna. So a potentling, just for reference here, is a roper. So a potentling is a roper. This is a roper pet. I think that's awesome. I love the idea that the feathery antenna are actually tickling, which is hilarious to me. Also, I like rust monsters, so to see them boosted up to challenge rating 7 in an interesting way, I thought is pretty sweet. Number 8. Next up, we have a Skatethon, which I wonder if is like a pun on Skatethon. It says, look, these things eat carrion. I mean, look at those teeth. This is a reimagined Cloaker. This is a big decrease in challenge rating, which I thought is interesting, taking a Cloaker from challenge rating, whatever Cloakers typically are, down to only challenge rating a half, also shrinking them down to tiny size. They do have flyby, though, and they have a bite, which has a constitution saving throw or a level of exhaustion. At the end of each long rest, while they're poisoned, they make a saving throw. On a fail, they gain another level of exhaustion. If the successful saving throw reduces the affected creature's levels of exhaustion below 1, the creature is no longer poisoned, and their tail does slashing damage. So they look like bat-sized stingrays with barbed tails that undulate through the air, typically traveling in groups of 3 to 5. They consume the flesh of other creatures, whether rotting or fresh. When they can't attack easy carrion, they prefer to attack terrestrial prey that can't chase them into the air. They take turns feeding and attacking, leaving at least one of their numbers circling high above to watch for threats. Their jaws produce slow-acting venom, and they are incredibly quick and dive out of the air to attack larger prey. These attacks are not surprise ambushes. They are preceded by the predator's terrible high-pitched shrieks as the Skatethons call out to each other to share their location of a meal. Again, they're almost, I guess Cloakers are terrifying regardless. The idea of putting on a cloak and it tries to kill you. But the fact that these are like flying cloak bat creatures that travel in swarms is just awesome. And I love seeing reimaginings of some of my favorite classic monsters. It just gets better and better. Number 7. Osteox, or a reimagined Flameskull. Not only do they frighten people and light them on fire, they also bite and chomp. This is again a decrease in challenge rating down to only an 8th, but that again makes the cool looking creature that much more accessible. They're now a construct as opposed to an undead. When they drop to 0 hit points, they do explode. As a bonus action, this is amazing, a small or larger creature can throw them up to 20 feet. If they're thrown at least 10 feet, it has advantage on the next attack it makes before the end of its next turn. They light up, obviously. And the creator and one creature chosen by the creator when it's created are immune to the fire damage dealt by it. It has a bite attack that does fire and piercing damage, and they can latch onto the target. And while they're latched, they have advantage on their bite attacks, and they can be detached with a successful athletics or acrobatics check made as an action. They are humanoid skulls covered in magical green flames. Mages create these constructs for warriors to carry into battle and hurl at their enemies. Any skull can be made into one. They do not hold any of their former creator's solar energy. It's not even an undead creature. Magic uses transmutation to create these flaming constructs. When a mage creates an Osteox, they enchant the construct to be loyal to another creature, usually a soldier that carries it into battle, which is an interesting concept just to think about constructs made by wizards specifically for warriors to take into battle. Both creatures can give it orders, though the creator's orders take precedence over any other creature. They are hurled into battle. It can roll and bounce along the ground, biting at the ankles of its master's enemies. Its strong jaws latch onto an opponent's leg, while its flames continually lick the enemy's flesh. When destroyed, it explodes. And obviously is a construct. This is actually really interesting. It's almost like a sentient, biting, chomping grenade, but it doesn't become a grenade till you destroy it. It just continues to deal damage. And that is even more frightening and an interesting con. Could you imagine someone with a bandolier of these things just throwing flaming skulls at people that like just chomp on them? They're like, oh my god, they kill it. It only has 12 hit, or sorry, it has 5 hit points. They kill it and then it blows up. That could be really interesting. I like this a lot. Number 6. The Ellow, which is a Couatl reimagining. You can ask them questions. Their answers can be a little obtuse. They are still celestial. They're now gargantuan in size and jumped up to a challenge rating 9. They have thin 40-foot-long bodies. They are created by angels to be eyes and ears on the material plane. They make cities in the clouds and communicate back to their masters. Let's see. They can turn their massive forms invisible in order to travel to various places unseen. Because of their divine connection and position as eternal observers, they are extremely wise and knowledgeable. If mortals can find and reach their settlements, they are typically kind and welcoming to them. And when they're destroyed on a plane other than Mount Celestia, its remains melt into a silvery ichor. It is said that a bath of this ichor can cure any disease and end any curse. So again, we can see their challenge rating 9 here. A ton more hit points than a typical Couatl. Pretty standard resistances and immunities. They have this angelic connection where they can telepathically connect to the angel that created them and speak telepathically with that angel no matter where they are in the multiverse. If the angel dies, the Ellow can connect with a new willing angel. They have the following spellcasting at will based on charisma, detect evil and good, guiding bolt, invisibility on themselves only, and scrying, as well as magic resistance. And then they have a bite and a constrict attack. The bite is a poison damage, just extra poison damage, and the constrict is a standard constrict. I love Couatls, and there's a severe lack of good celestial creatures in the Dungeon Master's Guide. In the Monster Manual, or any 5th edition book at all. So a higher power in a challenge rating 9 celestial creature is pretty awesome. Number 5. We have the Azorpede. This is a Remorhaz readjustment here, and this is one where we get a decrease in the challenge rating. So it says, unlike dragons who are motivated by gold and wealth, Azorpedes are interested in maintaining their colonies. So they are 4-foot-long, many-legged dragon that resembles a blue, red, and white centipede. 2 fan-like wings in their neck, which allows them to fly in this instance. They dig massive communal burrows in temperate environments. Big dirt mounds, like an anthill or something like that. They work together to ensure their colony stays safe. They have a noxious breath that smells of sulfur. And an Azorpede queen have a rudimentary intelligence, but an Azorpede queen is as smart, while regular ones have rudimentary intelligence, an Azorpede queen is as smart as most humanoids and the strongest and fastest in their colony. Each queen leads her colony, constantly organizing the expansion of tunnels and supply of meat. While they kill a variety of animals to store in their larder, they attempt to capture humanoids alive so their queens may dine on their favorite fresh meal. So a regular Azorpede is only a challenge rating 2. But you can see it does have a fly speed of 80, which is nutty compared to what a typical Remorhaz does. So this is a really interesting change in how it works. It has a bite attack, a horn attack, and a breath weapon. The bite and the horns are pretty standard, but the breath weapon here, 15-foot cone and a DC 10 con save or be paralyzed. No damage, just paralysis. And then we have the Azorpede Queen jumps up to a challenge rating 6. And then has, again, 2 bite and a horn attack. The damage increases significantly for both. The bite now also includes poison damage. The breath weapon upgrades to a 30-foot cone, but now it also does 96 poison damage plus a poisoning effect. And if so I don't know. I think this is a nice change up because Remorhaz are usually pretty nasty, and this is sort of almost fills the role I feel like that Ankegs could do, or an Ankeg queen type scenario. So this is much more low level things you could set at your party pretty early on. Plus the history behind them and the fact that the queens have a 10 intelligence, like maintaining their colonies, and that they're dragons as well. Also really interesting. Number 4. The Pedrik, or a reimagined Xorn. This looks like something out of the Flintstones. These are still elemental creatures, but these ones now live in the Underdark and were changed and altered by the Phasresh, the sort of magical Underdark essence. Imbues them with immense hunger. They're quick, fast, and stealthy hunters that can even open up their mouth, I guess, almost to swallow any creature regardless of their size. And they are ambush hunters, so they will prefer to horror movie style pick people off one by one, and they hate sunlight. They have impenetrable skin. Even magic weapons cannot pierce their stony hide. And they are also now challenge rating 11, which is a massive increase with a natural armor class of 20. Immunity to poison, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Just period, no bludgeoning, piercing, slashing of any kind, but they are vulnerable to thunder damage. They still have an earth glide ability where they can go underground and move through stone. Magic resistance, their attacks are considered magic. They obviously have sunlight sensitivity. Their bite does pretty decent damage, and the target is grappled until the grappled end. They're restrained. And it's basically unlimited size, so you can do with whatever you want. And then it has claw attacks, but it does make 3 claw attacks and a bite attack every turn, which makes it a pretty nasty reimagining of a Xorn. And is also now chaotic evil as well, with a 40-foot burrow speed. So this could be very fun. You could do a lot of interesting, like I said, horror movie style where people are getting picked off one by one in a caravan. Assuming you're traveling in the Underdark, if you really want to jack up your Out of the Abyss campaign and make it even harder, this would be a great way to do so. Number 3. The Fungivy. We couldn't get away with a dad monster manual without at least one dad joke in here, if not amongst the several others. This is a little reminiscent of that Seymour thing from Little Shop of Horrors. Also, I don't know if I've ever seen in a Shambling Bound art, like the person inside it. This is the first time I'm seeing it. But they are basically what a shambling mound continues to be, a big mass of vines and roots and fungi. It says the ancient bulwark trees that live for more than a century have the power to break off their roots in the ground. These roots keep growing, forming a Fungivy. A bulwark tree is a reimagined Couatl demon that's in this book as well. They serve one purpose: to feed their parent bulwark trees. They can always sense the location of their prey and stop at nothing to engulf and carry them back. So I think this one's probably going to be relatively close to this. Is a challenge rating 6. I think is pretty standard, pretty close to a shambling mound. If they remain motionless, they look like normal foliage. They have blind sight out to 60 feet. I was thinking they might have had tremor sense, but they have blind sight. They know the direction to its parent bulwark tree's location. If the tree is moving, it knows which direction. Makes 2 vine tentacle attacks. If both attacks hit the same target, it uses its engulf. So very similar to a standard shambling mound. The vine tentacles are a grapple and a restrain, and then the engulf subsumes a medium or smaller creature inside it. They're blinded, restrained, and have to make a DC 16 con save or gain a level of exhaustion as the sap within it saps their life. When their exhaustion level reaches 5, the Fungivy stops sapping its life, leaving the creature alive for the bulwark tree to kill. It moves, the engulfed target moves with it. It can only have one creature engulfed at a time. Again, very kind of similar in a lot of ways. It even has, I didn't even notice the little fungus on the top of the head up here. So that's interesting to see that while it does have a name change and slight alteration in its lore, it is pretty much the same. Number 2. Clamurs, or reimagined Bulettes. This is armor. There's a creature inside here. What's interesting for this is while Bulettes were originally a land shark, these ones actually return to the sea, and they are aquatic pink humanoids that grow to be between 2 to 3 feet tall. And then eventually, if they shape armor, they become kind of this armored version. I imagine very much like a hermit crab in and out of armor. It says because of their ocean habitat, they don't have fiery forges, so they make magic to create this thing called brine hull, which is their specific armor. Flexible seashells that are basically impenetrable as steel, and they use it to make all sorts of things for their homes and suits of armor. They're very vulnerable without their armor to all sorts of other predators. However, those predators know to avoid them once their armor is donned. It is magically enchanted, so only Clamurs can bond with it. and they build their homes on murky, shallow seas. They like to stay hidden, especially from creatures that might steal their brine hull growing and crafting techniques. Peaceful visitors in Clamur communities are treated with curiosity. The inquisitive Clamurs often have many questions for travelers, especially those who wield magic or magic items. They're always looking for new methods to help them perfect their brine hull crafting. So here you can see the base without the armor is only a challenge rating 1/8. It has a swim speed, obviously, because it lives underwater. It can hold its breath for 30 minutes out of water and can cast Mending at will, as well as once a day, Creation and Fabricate. And it uses, this is a humanoid creature reminder, not an actual shark-type creature. So, like, it has bipedalness to it, and it uses just a dagger. And then we have the armored version, jumps up to challenge rating 2. Again, they are 16 intelligence, so intelligent enough to have conversations easily. The brine hull armor gives us an 18 AC. Still has the same hold breath, water breathing, and innate spellcasting, but now it has a bite attack. It does a D6 plus 3, and then as in addition to the claw attack, doing a slightly more amount of damage. Interesting to see them change to humanoid, but I guess that makes sense if they're crafting armor. If I was going to use these in my game, I might keep most of the lore, but rather than making them humanoid, I might still keep them shark-esque, which would be interesting to me to see a shark crafting armor. Either way, a very different take from it overall, and I like the concept of possibly implementing brine hull armor as a new magical material in your campaign. Number 1. And lastly, Recfurs, the reimagined Flumphs. Like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Recfurs travel in pairs. Still an aberration, but a little bumped up to challenge rating 3. Really interesting lore behind this one. So they live near freshwater or saltwater, and they have a hidden library full of books. They reproduce asexually, producing a pair of twins every 10 years. These twins are inseparable from birth, traveling and living together for the rest of their days. They even have the same natural lifespan and die from old age at the same time. They enjoy each other's company, as well as collecting books about the natural and magical world. And they create poems and riddles to remember the vast quantities of information they have consumed. Their names are always alliterative as well, such as Darkly and Narkly, or Twillo and Twaggle. They enjoy sharing their knowledge with those who ask, but they usually only do so in cryptic poems and riddles. These good-natured aberrations like to turn these interactions into guessing games, giving hints to those who play along. Frustrated adventurers have been known to attack them, but those who typically do wind up turned to stone by the magic venom in their tentacles. They are especially eager to impart their knowledge to creatures that can share new tidbits in exchange, particularly if these revelations are shared as poems or riddles. And it says if a Recfurs twin is killed, the surviving one becomes enraged, obsessed, and avenging its twin at all costs. So it's amphibious, it can breathe water and air, and it has these tentacles which do poison damage. And on a con save, after you're touched by them, you begin to turn to stone, basically like a traditional petrification, right? So you start to turn to stone and you're restrained. You must repeat the saving throw at the end of your next turn. If you fail then, you are petrified unless freed by a greater restoration spell. I love Flumphs. They're obviously, I said it many times, they're my favorite monster in Dungeons & Dragons, and to see them reimagined in this way is awesome. Also, the lore behind that is the 18 intelligence. That's pretty cool. I like the concept of them being sort of these magical librarian keepers of knowledge that you could seek out. Plus, you can always have the fun with the kind of duality of the twins, or maybe, you know, if there's just one left, they become, you know, obviously vengeful and seeking out to destroy whoever killed their twin. Very interesting, though. I like it a lot, especially they reproduce asexually and it's always twins. Very cool stuff. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you again to James and his father for putting this thing together. I think it's awesome. I love the concept of it. You know, this is something I could see continuing on. Other people doing similar things like my kid's monster manual or you know, something along those lines. Versions of this for other people I think could be really fun. And I'd love to see more. This was only 80 monsters in the monster manual. I say only 80. There's a lot, and that's a lot of work to be done, but I'd love to see what other stuff they could come up with. I noticed a couple that weren't on the list was like Knowles, not on the list. I can't remember some of the other ones I had originally had on my list that weren't in here. But either way, very cool. So like again, I said there'll be a link in the description. It is an affiliate link, so I will benefit monetarily if you click my link and decide to pick up a copy of that. But hey, it also helps support the channel. Thank you again to my patrons over on Patreon for continuing to support me and the channel. I do appreciate it. I've been so steep with Tasha's Cauldron, I need to dive back into more fun stuff for the Patreon folks, as well as hangouts there and voting on the next follow-up Top 10 Tuesdays after this. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.